Welcome back to the show, Business Mastery for Startups, Scale-Ups, and Early Stage Businesses. Today's show is recorded live at Suffolk Law School at Boston Startup Week. And today, for our very first guest of the show, we've got Tricia Bitetto of Venture Cafe with an extremely eclectic background in everything from business to, believe it or not, comedy. That's quite the background, Tricia.
Yeah, that's right. I've lived in Boston since 2018, and I moved here to be a comedy producer at Improv Boston. Did that for a year. Pivoted to being a full-time baker, and with those crazy hours, was able to attend a host of networking events and start 2 companies and work for a startup remotely based in Barcelona. Luckily, found my way to CIC and Venture Cafe Cambridge, and yeah, here we are, 2 years later.
That's awesome. I often tell people that retail is a great place to start and start up because you learn what a tough, hard job is. I imagine the hours at the bakery are none too forgiving either.
Yeah, that's right. I just completely needed like a life change. I emailed them. The subject line was, "I will be your 3 a.m. baker." And, they taught me everything I know. Shout out to a Forge Baking Company. And then it was a time where I could really reflect on where I wanted my career to go, and while making excellent baked goods and having the time to kind of pursue other things. So it was great.
I can imagine that type of life journey must have taught you a lot about resilience and about how to make changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, in addition to that, I come from a pretty artistic family. So both of my parents had full-time jobs, but they were also artists. My dad had a ceramic studio on our property, and my mom had her own art studio. And so
Nice.
looking at problems actually have become something that I feel like has been a superpower in a way to pivoting and resilience. Like pivoting, especially in the art world, but also in the startup world, pivoting isn't a failure. It's really kind of recognizing where the strengths are and where the opportunities are, and not really having any judgment. So like if you're looking at a piece of art, or you're working on something and it doesn't, releasing judgment of what it looks like, but it's about the journey of doing. It's about connecting your hand to your brain, to your eyes, about what you're making. And then if you make a mistake, quote, you can change the point of view, the hue, the medium, and people aren't going to be asking, oh, how many pivots did you do to get this great piece of art? It's like, it's all towards the journey of creating something that shares a part of your self-expression. And I think that's absolutely true in my career. And then of course it's true in the startup world, as it's, a marathon, not a sprint.
Not just that, but gosh, pivoting isn't failing couldn't be more accurate. Failing is failing. Pivoting is pivoting. Failing is when you turn the lights out and can't turn them back on, not when you've made a change so that you can succeed.
Yeah. Failure. I feel like I've been done so many different things in my career. I feel like even failure is up for discussion. I think failure is like, if you don't try, like if you leave anything out on the field, is more closer to failure for me. But I think trying and the jobs that the comedy producing job wasn't actually available like maybe 5 years prior. So it's just like through iteration and the journey of where I was at the time. And then the position appeared and I was able to fill it. And so I think resilience too is I think they're definitely intertwined. I know it's also being able to be resilient and looking for the next challenge, looking for things that excite you, looking for things that you continue to be curious about. And then that helps you then easily pivot. But I feel like failure is like a necessary part of life and
Absolutely.
And the startup journey. And yeah, I don't think I've met anyone who hasn't failed, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even in your own organizations, I know with my company, we're not doing now what we originally started doing in a broad sense. We had to make lots of adjustments in how we, connected with our clients, the services we offered that made more sense for them. It's not what I wanted it to be, it's what my clients needed it to be.
Yeah, and what does that mean for you? It's just super interesting as your own journey of how you present yourself professionally and on this awesome podcast. It's just super fascinating. It's never boring. My work is never boring, so I'm sure yours isn't either.
Sometimes I wish it was a little more boring. I will say, circling back to resilience, it's one of those things like culture and work-life balance and leadership that get talked about a lot, but get talked about too superficially. Resilience really is darn near superpower when it comes to startups. There's just, it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can be hit and keep moving forward that matters in a startup.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the eclectic background that you've had has supported you in that?
I mean, for me, 100%. I feel like going back to art, actually, like people say art and business don't like, it's so separate, I'm not creative or whatever. But actually, I think even just being able to appreciate a number of different perspectives, like just even pieces of work that you don't even understand, it actually gives you, I think, a larger spectrum of experience in order to be resilient. Like, and even thinking outside the box. Because I've learned, especially in the last like 5 years, that there's always an opportunity somewhere. There's always an opportunity. And either it's like I remember this story. I think it was like a Barbara Corcoran's real estate company, and one of her associates had done a lot of sales, I think, in an Asian country. I think it was Japan. Maybe it was Taiwan. I'm not exactly sure. But they basically had like a recession, and a lot of her properties then had lost a lot of value. And so she was like, oh, man, what do we do? And so she actually got a translator and was able to then go to a different country and then sell the properties with the use of a translator. So, like, always looking for somebody where I try and, like, find where's this moment right now is aligned with somebody else. Like where this actually is a positive for them, or some aspects of the struggle is positive for them in a way that's like mutually beneficial, not hurting anybody. And it's really kind of becomes a fun puzzle, because there's like an affirmation I like to use. It's like, even this is here for, even this moment is in support of like the greater good and the greatest good, and I'm going to be safe. And this is an opportunity to either create a new connection, get outside of myself, meet somebody new. But it's hard. I mean, it's really, on a personal note, I feel like it's crying sometimes is really healthy. And like once you kind of, you can logically understand why something happens, but your body is in the present. It's like, it's helping you breathe. It's getting your sleep at night. It's processing your food. And like sometimes crying really just kind of aligns your mind and your body in a way that you're just like, okay, I'm present. And the next, I often find that sometimes I have a good cry, the solution kind of appears, and that's not always true, but oftentimes it is. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my affirmations is it's 5 o'clock somewhere. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. The other good thing, or great thing, really, about the eclectic background is it gives you different insights and ways to look at problems. You have people that have all the same background, went to B school, or they're technologists, or whatever it is for their startup. Then they've got a way of looking at things. But when you have lots of different experiences in your background, it really helps you to see the problem from different angles and come up with solutions that we haven't heard 317 times that day.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is huge.
And I'm really lucky. I landed at Venture Cafe Cambridge, so we're like an industry agnostic, like huge tech networking event every Thursday night, and it's industry agnostic by design. And we have people from all different backgrounds, and it's again like a really fun puzzle of making associations of how can somebody working in crypto and somebody working in cybersecurity and somebody working on maritime shipping, and how they might be able to collaborate, even if it's just like positivity with uncertainty. It's super super cool.
Related, so I work with a group called Tribe HQ, and I facilitate a group of CEOs. We have a monthly call, and the range of different businesses on that call and where they're at is huge. We've got guys at ideation, got one person at 25 million in revenue, and we've got all over the place in businesses. And the ability to bounce an idea off someone in a completely different industry is huge. First of all, I think people are a little more open because they don't feel competitive. But secondarily, again, just that different view, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, 100%.
So talk a little bit about a venture cafe. So is it an event, or is it a physical location, or is it all of the above?
It's all everything. It's basically, so I'm with the Venture Cafe Cambridge team. So it's actually a global network. There's about 15 of us around the world, run by the Venture Cafe Global Institute. We're in Japan, we're in Mexico, we're in Berlin, we're in the UK, other sites in the United States. And it's all about creating an area with people who have a growth mindset, with people who make things happen. So I get to book programs and speakers talking about cutting edge research, and people sharing their bold vision for the future. We do pitch events. And so, it's basically, I really get to meet with like experts and brilliant minds like all day long, and figuring out how we can get them on the calendar, and then talking with people about their proposals, and then helping facilitate the event itself. And We work with like the Cambridge Nonprofit Coalition, so working with the nonprofit sector and how we can maybe do some sort of crossover, which has been really interesting to see, because these nonprofits are used to, looking for volunteers or sponsorships or, fundraising opportunities. But the founders who are at Venture Cafe are like, what's your business model? Like, how are you like retaining clients? How are you like sustaining your business, your nonprofit? And they've just found it really eye-opening and wonderful. So I love that we've been able to do that. But it's every week. So tonight we're doing Caribbean Innovation Night. Last week we did like a scuba innovation night from University of Scuba in Japan, with talking with Japanese innovators and their ecosystem over there. We're doing a Tough Tech Week in October. We're also working with this startup founder who's creating an AI TV program. So there's about like AI 12 shows that are incorporating AI, so it's almost like a choose your own adventure. And so he's going to be doing like a showcase of that new technology on October 2nd. So like it's super cool. Yeah.
Feels very similar and related to Boston Startup.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were just so happy to like, Stephanie's doing an incredible job. Yeah, definitely shout out to her. We just did a panel actually about startup ecosystem operators. So she was on that panel. I was so happy she was able to shout out Startup Boston Week, but she's a powerhouse and I'm just in awe of her, and I love working together with Steph. And congratulations, Stephanie, if you're listening. So
she was here just moments ago. Okay. So I don't know if she's around during Startup Boston Week. She bounces around like a ping pong ball.
Absolutely, yeah, she's busy.
So if you could give any one piece of advice to a startup founder, what do you think it would be, Tricia?
I would say one is why you? Why? There's a lot of cool problems and people want to make money, obviously, and get the ball rolling and start running a start. But I'd ask like why, like there's so many excellent projects out there, and it's like, why are you committed to this one? Because I think bringing your personality and bringing your authentic self to the problem actually will help you with fundraising. It'll help you with creating a team. It'll help you with marketing and messaging. There's a lot of great advice out there, but I think right now, today, it's really asking the question, why me? Why now?
And I think that's important from a couple different perspectives. One being, are you the right person to lead that ship at that point in time? And asking that question forces you to dig into that and make sure that you are, which is great. Then secondarily, every startup has its downs.
Yeah.
A lot of times it has more downs than ups in the beginning. And if you're not committed at a visceral level, when you get to the downs, it's really hard to bounce back up. And that circles 100%. Back to that resilience topic, I think.
Totally. And I think once you know like why you, and then you can see what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then it's easier, in some ways it's easier, I think, to pivot, because you have this little bit of a buffer between like you and your passion versus like you and what you like to accomplish realistically right now in the next week, in the next month, 3 months. Yeah, I think it helps with being level-headed, especially through so much adversity of just having a startup. So
100%. I think there's an interesting connective tissue even between resilience and pivot, because you don't want to pivot so often that you're pirouetting. That doesn't get you anywhere. You need to exercise a level of belief and trust in yourself that you're on the right path, but you also have to be mature enough to understand that, oh my gosh, this path is no longer the right one, and I have to make an adjustment. And more often than not, that's going to come from getting feedback from your early stage clients and your team and discovering, hey, we thought this, but we see that.
100%. I think it goes back to also what you were saying about getting feedback from other people in different sectors. And if you're constantly getting feedback from people with other sectors as well as your peers in your own industry, like I think it makes it easier to know what the right pivot is for you. And it also, I think it makes you be more nimble, because sometimes it's not just the pivot, it's how quickly you can pivot. You're a vessel for this particular project. It's like you're not so emotionally, bound to it in a way that it's hard for you to pivot. So that's what I feel like I lost my train of thought.
No problem. It's a different thing doing a podcast live in front of a group. Hi, group.
Hello.
So from your background, interesting story. So about 6 or 9 months ago, we had a guest on who had wanted to become a comic. And interesting journey. Wanted to become a comic. In college, he got into crypto. Started a crypto startup, moved to Eastern Europe, crushed. came back, lost all of it, and started again. And he created so he predominantly does VC funding coaching for startups because he raised a few rounds. He'd done some of that, but he uses comedy in order to attract people to his real business. And he's pretty funny. He's great on the show. But his real magic is in his writing. So he has a very successful newsletter and a very funny LinkedIn profile. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten bounced out of LinkedIn yet. But he's very, very funny. But it's just such an asset to him. And I found that, again, humor is very, very helpful. It shows confidence. It creates engagement. It's hard to dislike somebody who makes you laugh, though. I found I can still do it. But I say all this to say, do you feel like your time in comedy has helped you in this world?
Yeah, I think, I've been really thankful for the comedy experience. And just to clarify for the audiences, I was a producer, so I was a lead producer, so I wasn't on stage, more as just helping comics and improv teams be their best on stage, and there's so much talent in Boston, so it's incredible. It really gave me some skills in terms of logistical skills, actually, too, because I was in charge of the professional teams in the larger theater, and there was about like 3 to 6 shows a night in the whole place, and about 6 days a week. So that was about 1,300 shows a year.
Gosh.
And so Venture Cafe, it's once a week, but we're doing 4 to 6 activations per night. So it's definitely, it seems like less, even though it's just it is pivoting in terms of event producing. But I think in terms of being around comedy, people are just brilliant. It's how people see the world and connect with their audience and have a strong point of view. Talk about topics that aren't really talked about per se, in terms of women's health or everything, anything to help bring people together and laugh. It's always just given me a sense of lightheartedness sometimes in the toughest times. Just try and think about how to write. Of course, being in comedy, I've done stand up myself. I'm not very good at it, but just because I wanted to practice and I wanted the experience of it. And it's really hard, but it is a good thought exercise, at least, to just think if I were to write a joke about this this tricky time I'm in, what is the funny part about it, and what makes me laugh about it? I do crack myself up quite a bit.
I found that comedy and well-written fiction empower us to look at things that are otherwise either too painful or taboo to look at through a different lens, and I found it expands minds a lot. People who would reject a concept out of hand when it's given to them in a funny way, or science fiction being a great example, some alien race instead of real people, they can look at a problem that they wouldn't otherwise look at, that their internal programming would auto-reject with a much more open mind. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah. I think comedy definitely has a role in society, and it's really cool. There's a lot of really great talent out there. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So we have gone a bit astray. So let's pull it back. What would you like to add, about resilience or pivoting, or about your experiences at Venture Cafe?
Yeah, I mean, CIC also, I would say, is our parent company. So
yep.
CIC is OG, office space and hot desk. So there's 9 locations and growing around the world. And they're also really by design all about serendipitous collaboration. Even every is a mixture of hot desk space, of phone booths, of conference rooms, of team offices, of gathering spaces. And so you're actually not in there's never a rectangular room where you're you can walk in one direct straight line to meet someone across the room. You're always going to run into other people or areas to pull somebody, to the side and have a smaller conversation, a whiteboard where you can just start ideating. And so it's a really fertile environment to have a place like Venture Cafe, and it's just so super inspiring. So even on a Tuesday or a Monday when there's the Thursday gathering isn't happening, it's just so inspiring to. And then of course being around in the space, people they're startups. People are starting their own companies. They're working for larger companies, but they want to be around the startups. And so they're giving advice. They're sharing what they've been talking about. They're introducing people to other people. I feel very fortunate, and it's just an incredible environment. So I think, shout out to CIC. I think they're here with Startup Boston Week too. But yeah, I mean, it's also brought me. this is like, I've been so fortunate to be on like a couple of podcasts. I'm moderating this panel tomorrow for accelerator programs. So like we're talking with Mass Challenge and like C10 Labs and a few others, talking about how do you manage a cohort of really promising startup founders, and like what does that look like, and each of the panelists will be have a different like, or kind of a different approach to it. So it's like all complementary, and so that's just, it's just it's cool to be able to, pivot to like being a moderator on a panel, and then talking to folks about should I bring a laptop to my presentation, and like is there an HDMI cable, and it's like it's a soup to nuts kind of lifestyle that I have of looking at the broader picture and then really just laser focusing on what needs to get done, and it's the variety that I absolutely love. Like producing is, I think there's definitely management, but I consider myself a producer. We can do this anywhere, so it's anywhere from like if someone was like, hey, let's do a networking event in a forest, I'd be like, got it. Like let's get the permits, let's get a DJ out there, let's do something, like let's get some programming. And so and Venture Cafe is really cool too, because it's not a typical like event space. So we can do anything from like a workshop, demos. There's like, if people want to just talk about really like heavy hitting topics, like we can rearrange the room so you can kind of do a 4-corner situation where one corner is talking about a particular area of the issue, and then another corner is talking, and then rotating, and then bringing up like common themes across the room. Like we also had there were 3 brothers who were technologists who wanted to do who have a company to basically draw with light. So we transformed the space, and they were able to bring in 3 activations. Like I worked with another company that they have a drone company where they basically can it's like a 10 by 10 drone where you can film yourself. Like you can get on their app, and the drone is filming you, so you can wave to the drone, and it's now on a screen. Super cool. It's like, another gentleman, Leonard Senge, he's like a consultant. He helps with investment to and from Africa. And so he was like, hey, I have a delegation from Senegal coming. Would you mind? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Yes, we do. And so talking about how to do, increase your market share in Senegal and other countries in Africa. It's just it's definitely, it's pivoting every day, but in just an incredible, there's room for everybody, and it's just an incredible life that I lead right now. It's great.
I wouldn't trade the startup world for anything. I'm not a big company guy. When Apicero got past 1,000 people, I was actively unhappy. When we finally sold at 2,500, I was just hunting for an exit. It was just, I'm a little company person. My sweet spot's 10 to 50. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on today. It's been great. Thanks to the audience for watching. If people want to learn more about you, Tricia, how can they do that?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This is an awesome experience. You can definitely check out Venture Cafe programming at venturecafecambridge.org. I'm also on LinkedIn, Tricia Bitetto. Feel free to hit me a follow and reach out. It'd be great. I just really appreciate the time. Thank you, man.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.